Genzou Shibata, professionally known as Animal Mask, is preparing to wrestle his opponent, Macadamian Ogre. After winning the championship, he aims to retire and live with animals he loves by opening a pet shop. During the match, he's summoned to another world through a ritual. The girl who performed the ritual acknowledges him as a hero. Animal Mask is clueless to what's going on. The girl introduces herself as Princess Altina Elgard Ratis. She has summoned him to defeat evil animals and the demon lord that stalk this land. Since Genzou loves animals, he gets angry and suplexes the princess. This understandably upsets everyone and he has to run away. He takes off his mask to get them out of his hair, but they persist. A cat girl and her brother plan to capture him and use him as a slave, but Genzou's love for animals quickly overwhelms them. He stops when he sees a beast girl being sold by her master. He intervenes by suplexing him. The siblings take the owner away. The beast girl thanks him. Since they're out of money, the two decide to work at a hunter guild. The guild master thinks Genzou is a lunatic and sends him after a Cerberus pack. Genzou gladly does so. Instead of finding them scary, he thinks they're cute and charges towards them. He dodges them easily and finds the leader. He pins him down until they all submit to him. The other hunters recognize him as a beast killer. He decides to keep them as pets. The three, along with the giant ant that came out of nowhere, decide to open up a pet shop. The beast girl, Shigure, wants to be a part of the shop due to money, but first they need money to open that shop. Shigure also owes money to her owner. Genzou hears a hunter calling him a beast killer. This angers him and he punches him away. For a reward, Genzou accepts the quest of catching a salamander. Heat Hayes, the guild's strongest warrior, asks him to join his team. Genzou's about to accept, but aggressively declines when he learns that they plan to kill the salamander. Shigure steals his sword as they leave. Genzou easily tames the salamander and collects the reward. With the money, Shigure pays her debt to her former owner. Meanwhile, the noble half-elf human, half-dragon girl, Linda Brea Fafnir Guildmarag, is tired of eating beast meat and wants to eat something else. Genzou captures more and more beasts for his collection. This means he needs to find a place for keeping them ASAP. Genzou takes on the task of fighting orcs as it pays the most. Genzou and Sigurd travel to where orcs live. He challenges the strongest orc to a fight. After an evenly matched fight, the orc is defeated. He earns their respect and collects the reward. Genzou purchases a house to sell pets, but fails to secure the loan from the bank. Meanwhile, Lindbrea is seen in the town. Genzou has his pet shop ready, but he can't get it running without the loan. He spots Lindbrea in his garden and takes her inside. He feeds her and she introduces herself to him as an ordinary dragon girl. She proves to be troublesome and wants to eat the beast. She then leaves. Later, the guildmaster tells them that a dragon is going around attacking people in town. He heads out on the quest to capture that dragon. He dons his wrestling attire and sets up a trap. Lindbrea accidentally gets trapped and some hunters mistake Genzou for a pervert who's trapped a girl. They're able to lose the hunters as Lindbrea breaks the cage. Carmilla, the vampire maid, spots them and thinks Genzou is trying to harm the princess. Genzou overpowers her and flees. Back at the pet shop, Lindbrea explains her noble status and that she's one of the 4 families serving the Demon King. Carmilla finds them but doesn't recognize Genzou without the mask. Carmilla wants to kill the two, but Shigure throws holy water on her. Genzou wrestles her as Shigure brings him garlic. Lindbrea stops them and explains the reason for running away was a lack of good food. She asks to stay and Genzou hires her as a helper and renames her Hanako. Princess Altena has been nicknamed Princess Buttocks after the incident, which pisses her off. Meanwhile, Shigure is worried since the shop's money is being spent on Hanako's food. Carmilla's alcohol and pet food while she does jobs to make money. They're visited by the bank's representative who reminds them that their loan will be denied unless they pay the down payment. All of them decide to work to make the money, but they prove to be bad at their jobs. Guildmaster helps Shigure by tasking them with capturing a griffin. Along the way, Genzou learns that Griffin gives birth to 2 kids and makes the 2 battle. Only the winner is allowed to live, while the loser is abandoned. He spots baby griffins fighting. Genzou takes the weaker one and runs away. The parents follow them. He gives the baby to Shigure and fights the parents. He's knocked out and Hanako has to carry them home. The baby soon grows up, making Shigure worry about the food costs. Genzou's opponent, Macadamian Ogre, also known as Mao, has always lost to Genzou despite training hard. He finally gets his big rematch after a long time, but Genzou disappears in the middle of the match, leaving Mao disappointed. Mao becomes depressed and refuses to wrestle anyone but Animal Mask. Meanwhile, Shigure drags Genzou to take on a new job. This gives Wolfgang the opportunity to steal Hiroyuki, but before they can do that, Genzou's ant friend beats them up, leaving the wolf with a fear of ants. Genzou's not interested in completing the job because the targets are mandrakes. He wants to go home, but Shigure wants him to finish the job. The group gets into an argument. Genzou gets into a fight with Carmilla. Hanako uses the distraction to eat all the mandrakes. They make their way home, and Genzou learns about the gang's attempt at stealing Hiroyuki. Furious, he finds the gang and beats the brother publicly as the nearby citizens watch him. They shower him with applause, which reminds him of his last match with Mao. Meanwhile, Mao is obsessed with Genzou and doesn't want to leave his home. Joanna, the princess of the vampires, receives permission from the Demon King to bring another Demon King from the alternate world to fight the hero Princess Altena summoned. She summons Mao through her ritual. Mao is clueless as to what's happening. Joanna and others mistakenly think of Mao as the Demon King from another world. Joanna introduces herself to him and tells him that he's been summoned to defeat Animal Mask, the hero Princess Altena summoned. Mao is ecstatic to hear that his opponent is Animal Mask. Joanna and others are also ecstatic to hear that Mao hates the hero Altena summoned. Princess Joanna also hates Princess Linda Brea, aka Hanako, whom she had a long-standing childhood rivalry. As children, they fought in matches, with Hanako always defeating Joanna. Joanna has a flashback to a time when Carmilla brought Hanako to a party. Joanna berated Carmilla for being a lesser vampire. Her intention is to send in a servant that's loyal to her and can reveal Hanako's weakness. Hanako refuses, so Joanna arranges a match between Carmilla and her servant, Rose. Rose is an elder vampire, and as expected, she overwhelms Carmilla with her strength and brings her down. With Carmilla not willing to admit defeat, Hanako admits defeat on her behalf and kneels before Joanna. Later, as they're leaving, they're attacked by Hanako, who transforms into her dragon form and avenges Carmilla. Back to the present, Joanna has heard about Hanako escaping. She thinks Hanako is finding the hero so she can defeat him for glory. Joanna wants to do it first, though, through Mao. Meanwhile, Genzou and the others are being stalked by a mysterious girl. The mysterious girl introduces herself to the group as Celis the Hunter. She refers to Genzou as the demon beast killer, which angers him and he punishes her. After he calms down, she explains that she heard about Genzou from the guildmaster. She came looking for Genzou because she wanted to become Genzou's student. Despite her begging, Genzou refuses to take her as his student as he's busy taking care of his pets. During the commotion, he accidentally touches her wrist, revealing that Celis is actually a lizard woman. This changes his mind and he takes her in, much to the dismay of others. He takes her to the mountain for training. Everyone else also helps Celis. At the end of her training, he gives her a mask to make her look like a female wrestler. She rejects it and reveals that she wanted to train with Genzou, because the other hunters at the guild were making fun of her for being a lizard woman. This sends Genzou into a rage and he beats up the hunters at the guild. The guildmaster demands an explanation and Genzou tells them about the bullying. The hunters realize they were in the wrong and apologize to Celis. Celis is inspired by Genzou to become a better person. Genzou's not having it and tells Celis to go one-on-one with one of the hunters. Celis wins the match by giving the hunter a German suplex. The bank representative apologizes to them after the match and tells them that he was impressed by the battle. He tells Genzou that they're opening a fighting tournament. If he appears in the tournament, he'll give him a lot of money. Genzou wants beastmen to be a part of the tournament. Shigure asks him if he knows any beastmen that are willing to participate in the match. Genzou sees the kobold he often flirts with and realizes that he can recruit her husband. He runs to her house and notices that her husband is well built. As the two fight, the husband remembers his time as a warrior. Even though he loses, he's recruited by Genzou for the cause, and the two walk away. The wife thinks that Genzou has stolen her husband. Genzou also tries to recruit the siblings, but the wolf is scared of him, so his sister Misha joins instead. Later, he also recruits the orcs and the vampire. Heat Haze also wants to join, but is squashed by Genzou when he learns that he intends to use weapons in the tournament. He explains the rules of wrestling to everyone, and live sparring begins. A hooded figure watches everyone from a distance. Meanwhile, Princess Altena also hears about the tournament and recognizes Genzou when she sees the flyer for the tournament. The tournament turns out to be a hit, and the crowd loves it. Carmilla and Genzou team up against Heat Haze and Misha. The hooded figure turns out to be Wolfgang. He's forced to replace Heat Haze and join the match. The crowd goes wild, and Genzou considers the tournament a success. Genzou forces Carmilla to take Hiroyuki for a walk. Meanwhile, soldiers locate where Genzou is living. Soon, Princess Altena comes looking for him and calls him out for humiliating her at the palace. However, Genzou initially doesn't recognize her before remembering what transpired at the castle. When he does remember it, he suplexes her again. Meanwhile, Joanna tells Mao about Genzou's achievements in this world. Mao tells her that he can do better than Genzou. As they're talking, their caravan is attacked by some bandits. Mao takes this opportunity to show off his strength. He defeats them all using wrestling moves, which impresses Joanna and her maid. Genzou refuses to fight him since the Demon King is the ruler of the beasts. This angers Altena, who asks her soldiers to kill him. He defeats all of them and gives the same treatment to Altena as before. Meanwhile, Joanna gives Mao control of her Beastman army. Mao uses his wrestler charisma to control the Beastmen. Later, Genzou wonders if the Demon King looks like an animal too. He asks the guildmaster about it and tells everyone that he's going after him. Everyone at the guild recognizes him as a hero. Meanwhile, Hanako gets worried since her family serves the Demon King. Altena comes to tell Genzou about the new Demon King Joanna has summoned. Meanwhile, Mao locates the orc village and starts beating the orcs to learn about Genzou. Meanwhile, Genzou hears about the commotion and meets the orcs who tell him about what happened. The orcs draw a sketch of Mao and show it to Genzou. Genzou immediately recognizes him. Hiroyuki is finally stolen by the Wolf Gang. Meanwhile, Altena tries to convince Genzou to protect the citizens, but he refuses. Then he learns about the disappearance of Hiroyuki. Meanwhile, Mao stumbles upon the flyers for the tournament and figures out where Genzou is living. Genzou and his friends look for Hiroyuki all over the town. The bank representative comes to visit them and reveals that he saw Hiroyuki at a noble mansion. Genzou immediately makes his way to the mansion and asks the owner to give him back. The owner refuses to give it back since he bought it for a lot of money. As Altena runs to her castle to get the money so she can have Genzou in her debt, the little girl realizes that Hiroyuki is better off with his original owner. She begs her father to give Hiroyuki back to Genzou, but the father demands money in return. He ends up reducing the price enough for Genzou to afford it. Using Shigure's savings, Genzou buys Hiroyuki back. Later, Genzou learns that the Wolf Gang was behind the kidnapping. Genzou punishes them for it. Altena comes back with the money only to realize that the deal's been closed. Genzou comes back home to find Mao and Joanna waiting for him inside. Joanna, Hanako, and their maids get into arguments until they're interrupted by Mao, who demands a match with Genzou. The bank representative, who's been hearing the conversation, suggests having a second tournament to sort out this feud. Genzou agrees. Carmilla asks Genzou to teach her wrestling so she can defeat Rose. Carmilla's training begins, but her alcohol addiction makes it difficult for Genzou to teach her. Meanwhile, the bank representative and Shigure redesign the wrestling arena to accommodate a larger audience. Meanwhile, Mao trains as hard as he can to face off against his rival, Animal Mask. Genzou trains Camilla hard after learning about her rivalry with Rose, and takes away her alcohol to help her perform. Genzou then comes up with matches for the tournament, with the main event being the match between Mao and Genzou. He also recruits Wolfgang to join the tournament after hearing about the money. Shigure and Hanako distribute flyers for the tournament, while Carmilla and Celis train hard for their bout at the tournament. Princess Altea also joins the tournament. The tournament begins, and the first match is Heat Haze, Altea, and Celis versus Joanna's Demon Beasts. Altea wears a mask to conceal her identity. With everyone cheering her on, she's motivated to wrestle. She foolishly runs up to her opponent and gets thrown out of the ring. Celis and Heat Haze defeat their opponents and win the team match. The second match is between the Kobold and Orc versus a Cyclops. The Orc and Kobold come out as winners. In the third match, the siblings are defeated by Yetis from Joanna's army. The fourth match has Rosa facing off against Carmilla. This time, Carmilla puts on a good fight. She hurts Rose but doesn't pin her. This gives Rose the chance to suplex and pin her. Genzou cheers her for putting on a good fight. It's time for the main event between Genzou and Mao. Joanna is confident that Mao will win, but Hanako warns them that Genzou can prove to be a tougher opponent. The match begins and both are being careful. They begin wrestling and get into an argument. Mao asks why he ran away during that wrestling match. Genzou explains that he didn't run away and was brought here against his will. During the match, they clear the misunderstanding between each other and explain their purpose in this new world. Joanna and Rose watch them talking from afar and think that Mao is stupid. Hiroyuki hangs around the ring, which scares Mao since he has a phobia of dogs. Joanna and Rose steal Hiroyuki. Genzou sees this and abandons the match to run after them. The match turns into a brawl between beastmen and hunters. Genzou and Mao get back to the ring. Genzou ends up defeating Mao. Mao acknowledges that Genzou is better than him and says that he would want to fight him again. The hero army is declared as the victor. The match brings hunters and beastmen together for the first time. Princess Altina looks forward to the next wrestling tournament, while Mao leaves for his training. The guildmaster informs the group about a minotaur, so the group leaves to deal with it. And that's the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you at the next one.